Morning. We're talking about leadership in a crisis today, and it is uncommon times we live in, and it calls for uncommon leadership. It is not every day that we deal with this kind of situation with the coronavirus spreading all over the world, and the fallout from that, people being locked down, countries, economies. So we have to look at what leadership is needed in a time like this. Now, where do we start? We start at that point that everybody's a leader. Yes, you are a leader. If you are a parent or you lead a small group in your business, in your workplace, in your church, in your social group, you are a leader. But above all, you are a leader of yourself. The most important, the most difficult job that every person has got. And that is where we start with leading people through a crisis. And it takes that you get your mindset right where you start leading yourself. When you start leading yourself, it is extremely important that you understand the characteristics of a good leader and what it takes to lead yourself and therefore people through this time. So it's all about taking adversity and making an advantage in your life. How can we look at this that is really bad on the surface for everybody, the world, and how can we turn it around to really benefit out of that? I gave another talk about not just surviving in your business, but thriving in this time. Learning new skills, thinking about new ways to do business, how you can change your own life and your own perspective of what is going on at the moment, and how you can come out of this better, stronger, faster, and lead people, because people in this time need good leadership. In every difficult situation, there's the seeds of opportunity. Not opportunism, but opportunity. Opportunity to change the way we do things, to make it better. Just look at the world at the moment. Suddenly, children can go to school online. They can get all the exercises they need online. People can work from home. They can suddenly have Zoom meetings and Skype meetings. And lots of business is continuing. Yes, your physical businesses like supplying food, hospitals, those kind of things, totally different. But a lot of things, which is not listed as essential business at the moment, is continuing because it can continue in a virtual world. And that is where leadership can take us. This is not how to get through a crisis. This is how to get better in a crisis. And that takes to stand still for a second or two and just decide where you are. Now, one of my mentors, John Maxwell, teaches us that everything rises and falls on leadership. And leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So therefore, we have to look at situations like that, and where bad leadership makes things fall faster, makes situations get bad a lot quicker than what they are at the surface and at the start of this crisis. Bad leadership exacerbate everything and exaggerate everything that is happening around us. Where good leadership steadies the boat. It stops the fall. It turns the situation around. It brings calmness in a situation of strife, and it helps to get an upturn, get people to work together, to step away from the verge and to start growing, to start trusting each other and to work better together. Good leadership creates the platform for growth during a crisis. And growth is all around us. The opportunity to grow is all around us. Grow as a person, grow in your relationships, grow in your abilities, Therefore, your contribution to society can grow every day. Good and bad leadership is shown very clearly in a crisis. And bad leadership is shown up in a crisis. But the good thing is, good leadership shows up in a crisis. And that is where the separation is done between good and bad leaders. Bad leaders often lead from a positional leadership where people have to follow them. They don't have a choice. Where good leaders lead from a position where they are people developers. People follow them because of what they stand for and what they've achieved. And that is the big difference that's shown up in a crisis, where people cannot hide behind titles anymore. They cannot hide behind position. They have to strip all that away. And people have to understand what true leadership is and why people will follow you. If you think you're a leader and nobody's following you, you are just taking a hike because you're not a leader. And that's important to understand that. So, good leadership is needed to show up in a crisis. Show up in times when people are desperate for leadership, to show them the way, to calm the waters, to help them to understand the situation. So the goals here are good leadership gives you a perspective, gives you that time to breathe in, take in the situation, think about it, and understand what is happening around you. Perspective is how we view things, and that determines what we will do. When you take time to think about it, when you take time to evaluate the situation, and you change the way that you view the situation, this way that you will act in the situation totally changes. Wayne Dyer said famously that when we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at start to change. And it's exactly true about every crisis. That's what we have to apply. So how do we become a better leader during a crisis? Well, first of all, we put the people first. The people that we are responsible for, the people that we lead, we have to put them first. It's always a priority for any good leader. Secondly, the safety of the people. Safety on thinking about where they will be in this crisis, how affected their health and their families will be with the coronavirus, how they will create income for themselves. Because even in lockdown, people must still pay for utilities, they must still eat, they must still do a lot of things. That takes money, and people are worried about it. And a leader is there to give them clarity and perspective on where they're going. We can refer to many cases where leaders must always put the people first. When a leader takes on the mantle of leadership, it's always about the people. The moment you take on the role of leadership, you abandon the right to think about yourself first. You are a leader, and therefore you have to put the people first. It's about how I as a leader can serve you, lift you, and love you. Because in this time, those are the things that people need the most. When leaders put themselves first in a crisis, the crisis multiplies and ruins people's lives. The important thing in a crisis is to educate yourself, understand the issues, understand where things are going to, understand cause and effect. Very important. Very few people take the time to think about cause and effect. It is so important. Make sure that you get the facts for yourself. Do not go to the media. The media's got their own agendas. Do not go to social media, because everybody's got their own opinion. And in a crisis like this, everybody is suddenly a virologist, a communicable disease expert, a financial expert, a survival expert. Do not go to social media for your information. Educate yourself in such a way that you will understand what is happening around you and what the impact on your life will be. Be flexible. A crisis has a lot of uncertainty and a lot of change. Leadership is a book that was written by John Maxwell, and it talks about how to be adjustable, flexible, and as you move people and your family and your business around. And in some scenarios, you have to move from plan A to B to C to D to be flexible in this time on how you deal with this crisis. Then next, you must leverage your team. When you're in a business, when you're in a family, you are a team. You have to work together as a team. Ken Blanchard, the famous author of 1 Minute Manager and many other books, he wrote that all of us are smarter than one. In the Bible, it says, where two or more are gathered in my name, wonderful things start to happen. So we have to leverage each other. Nobody is up all the time. Nobody is down all the time. We have to carry each other. We have to encourage each other so that we can do better in this time. If you try to do it all by yourself, you will never achieve your desired outcomes. You have to take people with you on this journey. You have to leverage their knowledge, their experience, that you can come to an understanding and a solution to the situation that you are dealing with. Next point, communicate judiciously. Now, don't like using big words like that, but the definition is use good judgment. Less talking, more thinking. Weigh your options. Good discernment, good judgment. Yes, and good judgment comes from experience. And experience, like the old joke goes, comes from bad judgment. But use good judgment. And if you do not have good judgment, find somebody that can help you to have better judgment. Somebody that's got more experience. Somebody that views the problem differently. That is where we go. People don't always need more communication, but they do need wise communication. It is so important. We can flood people with lots of dribble, but people need wise counsel, like the Bible says. They need wise communication, that they know where the leader is going, where the leader's head is, and what the plan is. Then be authentic. Be yourself. Do not try to be somebody that you're not, because people will find you out very quickly. Uncertainty is okay. No leader has got all the answers. Never. No leader in the past, you can go and have a look at all the great leaders. It is okay to have not all the answers, but it's important to do the right things while you're searching for the right answers. Keep your head above the clouds. Keep the big picture in mind. Don't get stuck in the petty little things that is the day-to-day or the small things. Keep the big picture in mind. What is your overall strategy? Where are you going with yourself, with your family, with your business, with your life? What are you going to do? Encourage others by example. People model what they see. People will follow the examples that they see. Remember, people buy into the leader before they buy into his vision or her vision. You have to model the behavior you want in other people. The biggest leadership challenge always is leading me, the most difficult person, because it's easy to tell other people what they should do. It's easy to make decisions about other people. There's lots of small businesses around the world who's making the decision on if they will be able to pay their staff in this time, to pay their suppliers. Suppliers that need the money to be able to pay their staff and their suppliers. It is a difficult decision. It's always easier to take that decision about somebody else than taking that decision about your own income. And if you want to step on toes, put that out to your senior management team. If they have to decide if they're going to take salaries themselves, there's all the reasons why they should, and everybody's angry. But it's easy for them to take a decision about the packer or the dishwasher or the people in the call center or the trash collectors or whoever they need to make a decision about their income. Leadership of self is extremely important. Leadership of self is all about character. Manage yourself so that you can lead others. So, comments about this crisis. Let's accept this. A crisis is quite common. In the history of the world, there's always been one or another crisis. If you think back from 1938 to 1945, the world was in a world war. There was one crisis after the other, after the next. The world is known for its crises. And if you go and sit for a moment and you think about the crises that the world has seen in the last 100 years, it puts everything into perspective. But we do have a tendency to claim that it's never been as bad as it's now. Because we live in the moment. And we have to step back and see it in perspective. We are the only ones who has ever experienced it. Because we're going through it now, people think that it cannot be that, couldn't have been that bad in the 1918 flu, the Spanish flu, or the Vietnam War, or the Bush War in South Africa, or whatever. But now it is so terrible. We tend to over-exaggerate our place in history and the importance of it. There are 2 consecutive good days for a leader. It's a statement that John F. Kennedy made. Now, a leader knows that it's going well when he's got 2 consecutive good days. But a crisis means that he's never or she's never got 2 consecutive good days. Maybe there's days and weeks and months that is not good. But the end result, the end strategy, that makes it worthwhile. That makes it important to know that you should lead. And even if you have bad days as a leader, never drop your guard and never forget about the people. Let's just look at the last 20 years. Just the last 20 years. Some of you that is older will remember in 2000 or 99, the dreaded Y2K. We were all convinced the world was coming to an end. Everybody was buying baked beans and extra food, and they were waiting for the world to implode. What happened? Nothing. 2001, the anthrax scare all over the world. Everybody was scared to open envelopes, white powder. The world was going to die. The terrorist threat. 9/11 in 2001. Again, the big terrorist threat. People thought the world was coming to an end. In 2002, the West Nile virus, potent virus, killed thousands of people. Nothing happened. 2003, bird flu, the first known transfer from animal species to the human species of a virus. Headlines. 2005, E. coli infections all over the world. 2008, the collapse of the world economy. The world thought they will never recover from that. Banks, 100-year-old banks in America went bankrupt. The rest had to be bailed out. So South Africa was, to a large extent, isolated from that. But it affected us for imports, exports, all those kind of things. 2009, the swine flu. Again, I thought it was a world epidemic. 2010, the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. People thought that that will destroy the world's oceans. 2012, remember that? The Mayan calendar, the end days, the world would end in 2012. 2013, North Korea unveiled their first intercontinental ballistic missiles. Everybody thought World War III will break out any moment. 2014, West Africa, Ebola. Thousands of people died. For the first time, Ebola went airborne. A whole new virus. Hemorrhagic fever. It's a horrific way to die. 5,832 people died. stop there. 2016, a Zika virus killed 100,000 people. So you can see that just in the last 20 years, every year there's been a crisis. Yes, granted, it hasn't been on this level. Countries didn't go into shutdown. But if we look at it objectively for a moment, at the moment, South Africa has got 1,300 odd reported cases, 3 deaths. More people died in the last week of TB than almost all the people that died of coronavirus in the world. In the last week, more people were murdered in South Africa than died of the coronavirus. So the world's not being shut down for that, but the world's being shut down for the coronavirus, for whatever reason. The Spanish flu in 1918, it killed 1 million people per week. 25 weeks, it lasted. It was horrific. The world survived. When we're in a crisis, we tend to exaggerate. We tend to make it a lot bigger than what it is. It's much like surgery. The same surgery that's done to you is seen as minor surgery by me. But when the same surgery is done on me, it's major surgery because it's on me. So the closer things are to us, the more we tend to exaggerate that. I told a friend of mine one day that just after his mother passed away, that in a few years from now, he'll be more upset about losing a parking spot than the death of his mother. And he was very upset about it. And about 5-6 years ago, I saw him one day and he said, "How did you know?" I said, "What?" And he said, "How did you know that I would be more upset about a parking space lost than the death of my mother?" He said, "Because you lost this parking space now. And your mother's passing is in the past. And you remember all the good things about it." So we tend to exaggerate when we're in a crisis. And we take our eyes off the ball and we don't remember what we should be doing. Now is always a major crisis. For most people, people who do not think for themselves, it is a major crisis. Leaders always give the right perspective to people during a crisis. You have to give that leadership. Step up, be calm, and help people because you give hope, security, and encouragement. Now let's just look at the dictionary. The dictionary's definition of a crisis is a time of intense difficulty or danger. In the medical world, it is a turning point. The patient will either get better or be worse off. If we look at the Greek definition, it says decision. So here's our definition of a crisis. A crisis is an intense time of difficulty, requiring a decision that will be a turning point. So let me say that again to you. A crisis is an intense time of difficulty, requiring a decision that will be a turning point. Max Dupree, that was a leadership author in the US, not Max Dupree in South Africa. He said, the first responsibility of a leader is to create reality. What is the real issue? What is the real threat that's facing us? And what is the real things that we're going to do to attack it? Solomon from the Bible, known as the wisest man ever, he said, this too will pass. Like all things has passed in the last 10,000 years that we know of. Like the 1918 Spanish flu, that also passed. It killed a lot of people, but it did pass. A crisis is there to sober us for the good times. Sober us up to enjoy what we've got. Sober us up to appreciate what we've got and to understand what we need to do to bring our talents to this world. Crisis is a distraction. We must understand that a crisis is distracting because it is the opposite from traction. Traction is the opposite of distraction, and that is the good thing that you want in your life. Traction means to pull or drag forward, the momentum to move in the right direction. Distraction means the opposite, to pull away, to lose momentum. I can just look at our own business, and we had fantastic momentum going into the year. Things are going well. We're doing extremely well. Cash flow is good. People are happy, getting salaries. And then this happened. It breaks our momentum. We have to shut down. We have to now tell people that they're not going to get their full salary because we don't know what's going to happen. It breaks momentum. It takes away the pull that we had towards the better and bright future that we are building. A crisis confuses our priorities. We must always live to our priorities. And like I always say, there's no such thing as time management. It's priority management. Because if something is a priority for you, you will find the time. So it is important to understand your priorities and understand how the crisis distracts you from your priorities. It keeps us from building progress. We cannot, because we are fighting all the time with seemingly our backs against the wall. So it takes away from your progress. Traction are the actions that draws us towards what we want in life. You have to have traction all the time to be able to move forward. But distraction pulls us away from purpose, that definiteness of purpose that we need to move forward, to understand what we want in life and where we want to move to. That is important to understand that. A leader must always have only one agenda, to put the people first. A leader that does not put the people first is not a leader, is a bad leader for that matter. Because a bad leader manipulates and does not motivate. When you manipulate, you move people towards your own agenda during a crisis. And if we look at the media, maybe that's a good example of the false news, the fake news that they're putting out, and how they are pushing their own agenda. That is manipulation. Motivation is to uplift people, motivate them to close in on their own goals. That they keep their eye on the ball, that they don't move away from their purpose, that they are motivated and they're not scared. Distraction is because of fear. Now people are concentrating on something else. They're fearful. They don't know what tomorrow will bring. Leadership helps to take that away. Now we understand that at the moment the fear is spreading far faster than the virus can. And I saw a comment that says that the coronavirus is spreading faster through WhatsApp as what it can spread naturally through the world. It is something that we have to keep an eye on. Are we in a crisis? Yes, we are in a crisis. Economies are locked down. People don't know what tomorrow will hold. But that does not mean that because your sky is falling, my sky is falling. It is all about perspective. Is the world coming to an end? I don't think so. We don't know. But today, what I can do, I will do to lead my team, to lead my family, and to make sure that we are the best that we can be today. Within the constraints of what it is, we will be the best that we can be today. Nothing causes you more anxiety than when you try to control something that you cannot control. We cannot control this. We don't know what's happening with it. So why be anxious about it? The Bible talks about it. Why be anxious? All this has been taken care of already. You have to concentrate on delivering the best of yourself every day. So the question is, how do you view this crisis? Do you view this as a growth opportunity? or do you view this as a sulking opportunity? Because we have to, every day, every step that we take through this crisis, we have to evaluate it. What is there to learn? How can we apply this learning in our lives going forward? And what is there to forget about the past? That it will not serve us again in the future. Leaders help people to get traction through during distraction. We have to wade through this muck and fix our eyes on the horizon, there where things are stable, a fixed point, so we can move forward and not be distracted by what's happening at the moment. So the first thing is to get rid of the distractions by getting rid of negative emotions. It's easy. If you look in your garden, weeds grow by itself. You don't have to water it, you don't have to fertilize it, you don't have to give it sunlight. It will grow by itself. The same with negative emotions. It will grow by itself. If you allow it to go, you will be depressed, you will be distracted, you will have no focus and no vision. Get rid of all those negative emotions. I want to read you something that C.S. Lewis wrote. He wrote this in 1948, at the height of the nuclear age. The first nuclear bomb was just dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, and then big countries like the USSR and the USA built their arsenals of atomic bombs, and people were scared. And he wrote this: in one way, we think a great deal too much of the atomic bomb. Now, in this case, you can replace atomic bomb with coronavirus. How are we to live in an atomic age? I'm tempted to reply, why, as you would have lived in the 16th century when the plague visited London almost every year, and as you would have lived in a Viking age when raiders from Scandinavia might land and cut your throat any night. Or indeed, as you are already living in an age of cancer, an age of syphilis, an age of paralysis, an age of air raids, an age of railway accidents, an age of motor accidents. In other words, do not let us begin by exaggerating the novelty of our situation. Believe me, dear sir or madam, you and all whom you love were already sentenced to death before the atomic bomb was invented. And quite a high percentage of us were going to die in unpleasant ways. We had indeed one very great advantage over our ancestors: anesthetics. But we have that still. It is perfectly ridiculous to go about whimpering and drawing long faces because the scientists have added one more chance of painful and premature death to a world which already bristles with such chances in which death itself was not a chance at all, but a certainty. This is the first point to be made, and the first action to be taken is to pull ourselves together. If we are all going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let the bomb, when it comes, find us doing sensible and human things, praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts. Not huddling together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies. A microbe can do that as well, as we know at the moment, but they need to not dominate our minds. That was written in 1948 by C.S. Lewis, well-known Christian writer. And that's how he viewed that. Isn't that the ideal view that we must take now? So my decision is that fear will not dominate me in this time. A crisis reveals what is inside of us. A crisis reveals your character. And that is extremely important. Think about it. When you squeeze an orange, what do you get? Orange juice. When you squeeze a human, what's inside will come out of it, negative or positive. But you decide. That's a choice that you make. And the choices we make in a crisis reveals who we are. We always have control over our choices. We do not always have control over our circumstances and conditions. So what is the choices that you make? What is the decisions that you are taking? An important rule is you cannot moan and lead at the same time. It is impossible. You can either do the moaning or the leading, but not both of them. But you have to decide which one will you be doing. John Hope Bryant, a well-known American writer and businessman, wrote the following, and I want to read it to you. It comes from his book, Love Leadership. And it says, most people find strength in things that are outside them. Money, power, titles, wardrobes, cars. But most of the things that make a leader are on the inside. Integrity, wisdom, confidence, vulnerability, joy, passion, compassion, intuition. These things come from life experience, from life's trials, from the deepest part of a person's soul. You cannot fake them, and you can't buy what's not for sale. My mentor, Reverend Murray, says, life asks a question of every leader that gauges their effectiveness and wisdom. What have you been through? Following battle, King Arthur would ask his knights, show me your scars. And if they couldn't show him their scars and none existed, he would say to them, leave me and go and get your scars. I have learned that authenticity counts and that the best route to an authentic me is through your scars. As you earn them, you learn to drop the BS in your life and to attach yourself to the substance in your life and to the substance in those around you, precisely because of that history of loss. You never take yourself too seriously or get needlessly seduced by short-term materialism. In other words, loss helps ground you as a person. There's a hard lesson in life setbacks. Just as steel is forged through fire, leaders are forged through loss. There can be no strength, no real inner growth without the pain of legitimate suffering. It's a scientific fact. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm. That's why I believe that the first law of love leadership is that loss creates leaders. If leadership means learning to think clearly for yourself, putting others first, and banishing fear, it is lost that lays the groundwork for the kind of growth that leads to a love leadership perspective. That was John Hope Bryant that wrote that. So transformation begins by people having good values. Now, I've spent a lot of time in my life talking about values and helping people developing values. And in the piece I just read to you, one of them is integrity. And I took the time last year to ask 100 people what their values are. I can tell you only one could tell me what his values was. And he could only tell me because he wrote it down in his diary. The balance of them couldn't tell me because they'd never thought of what their values are. And then I asked him, do you think that integrity is a good value to have? And they all said, yes. And they think it's a very good value to have. And I said, okay, then give me your definition of integrity. And I wrote them all down. And I can tell you, I got 100 different definitions of integrity. So until you have defined what your values are and what they mean to you, you cannot begin to transform your life through good values. But when you live by good values, you become more valuable to yourself and to other people. In other words, you become a better leader. The result is that people around you become bigger on the inside and they start to grow into their purpose. So let's review. A crisis is quite common, that we've established. A crisis is distracting. It takes away our traction. A crisis reveals what is inside of us. Benjamin Franklin said that a crisis does not create character, it reveals it. A crisis reveals what's inside of us. And a crisis requires adaptability. We have to adapt to a new world because the world will never be the same. Which is very important. A crisis is a case study in uncertainty. That is true about the coronavirus. Nobody knows how long this will last, or how bad this will be, or how long the lockdown will last. So this is where leadership comes in. Leaders are flexible. You understand that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to this. You have to be flexible on a daily basis to lead your people in such a way that they feel safe, and they feel motivated, and they feel loved and lifted up. Leaders are adaptable. We adapt to new situations. We change, we pivot our business models. We change the way we teach our children. We change the way that we live our lives. It's very important to be adaptable. There's a profound difference between conformity and adaptability. And please listen to this. Conformity is a negative quality. Conformity is about blending in. It's about being liked by everybody. It's a weakness based on fear of rejection. That is conformity. People conform because they fear rejection. Yes, lots of people want to be liked by everybody. Very few people like rejection. But the true leaders out there don't care about rejection because they know that there must be a certain amount of people that will reject their leadership. But adaptability is a positive quality. Adjusting not out of fear, but out of strength, because you are adjusting your viewpoint, you're adjusting your perspective to accommodate what is happening around you at the moment. Adapt to give you the ability to make you better. And when you are better, you can lead people better. And remember what I said, people model behavior. They model what they see. And when you are strong and when you are better, you can lead people better. Therefore, a story of Tom Watson that played golf, and he says of all his major tournaments he won, there were only 2 or 3 that when he teed off on the first day, he felt fantastic and he knew that his swing was right and that he would win. All the others that he won, he had to go to the driving range after every round and he had to practice and adjust his swing. And therefore, he adjusted his way to victory. Every time that he saw something was off, he adjusted, he tweaked, he worked on it, and he adjusted his way to victory. And that is what a true leader does. So how do I adapt? A crisis is a time when real leaders show up. A crisis is also the time when fake leaders fall by the wayside. People that rule or that lead from a positional leadership. They have not even reached the positional or the production level of leadership. They only are leaders, so-called leaders, because people fear them and they have to do what they tell them to do. When people reach the level of people development or pinnacle, that is where true leaders show up. True leaders are visible in a time of crisis. People can see them, people can model what they do. Great confidence are given by a leader that's visible all the time, that is honest with the people. You give them hope and assurance that things will be okay. It does not matter how hard things will get, and things will get hard. We don't know what's going to happen in this crisis. things will get a lot harder before it gets better. But a true leader will lead the people through this time with the hope that on the other side of this, it will be better. An example that's given is the Israeli army. They've got a philosophy that a soldier is led by an officer, a leader, into battle. A soldier always sees the back of the leader, the officer that leads him into battle. So there's a viewpoint: soldier, officer, enemy. That is how a leader works. One of the most efficient and effective armies in the world. That is their philosophy. And that's a good philosophy for any leader, because a leader must be seen by his people, must lead them into battle, whatever that battle is. And a crisis is that what people see a leader leading. A leader is not a travel agent. A leader does not tell you to go and do and come and tell what is. A leader is a tour guide. A leader says, come, let me show you how this is done. That is a true leader. Time-tested principles of a leader leading. A leader is open. Don't have secret agendas. Don't have anything that the people don't need at that time. They're open about what's going on. They're open about the threat. They're open about the solution, the vision. They're open about that. They're honest. They tell people what's going on. They tell people when it's going to be hard, when it's going to be difficult, when it's going to be dangerous, when it's going to be better. They're clear. They don't use highfalutin language to tell people things that they don't understand. They take things and they make it as simple as possible for the weakest among us to understand. That is what a good leader does. They stand up to be counted. And a good leader stands out in times of crisis so that people can follow them, and with the integrity that they lead people through a crisis. A leader that stands out tells people that we are prepared, we are learning, and we are taking massive action. Because then people feel safe that the leader has got the situation in hand. Facts of a crisis is unclarity is a fact of a crisis. Everything is clear as mud. Nobody knows exactly what's going on. We don't know how fast this virus is propagating. We don't know how fast it's spreading. We don't know how self-limiting it can be. There's unclarity. But unclarity does not show a lack of leadership. It shows a need for leadership. Because not everybody has got the ability to clarify things for themselves. We can be uncertain, but never unclear. And that's an important thing for a leader. Leadership is about making things clear. Clear about hope, courage, and the objective. Those three things: hope, courage, and the objective. Because people need hope to get through this, and we'll get to more in-depth discussion about hope just now. But they need hope to get through this. They need courage to get through this, because it will take courage. People are dying, so it will take courage to get through this. And they need the objective. What are we doing to get through this? Clarity helps people to prioritize. What is a priority? My family, my business surviving, my staff getting money, my family being safe. Those things are priorities. Watching Netflix and looking at junk magazines is not a priority. But growing yourself, developing yourself in this time, that is a priority. Yes, the coronavirus is out of control at this stage. We don't know what's going to happen. We can, however, control the choices that we are making at this stage. Prioritizing what we should be doing during the crisis is one of the most important tasks of a leader. The what, when, who, how. Those questions, those are the ones that the leader must take forward. The leader must always show up with hope. Hope is extremely important. Jonathan Sachs wrote a book on this subject, and he shows the difference between optimism and hope. And optimism is the belief that things will get better. That is optimism. But hope is the faith that together we can make this better. And there's a huge difference in the two things there. So optimism is a passive virtue, where hope is an active virtue. We are working together to make this better. It takes no courage to be an optimist, but it takes ultimate courage to hope. Leaders offer hope to the people. Not because we are positive thinkers, but because we are willing to do something together. Step up, stand out, lead people to do things, tell them what to do, to prioritize. That is the important one. So you as a leader are in the crowd, but not from the crowd. Do not be sucked into the negativity. Yes, we cannot live apart from the crowd, but we don't have to be part of the crowd, not part of that negativity. Leaders take PGE decisions all the time. They decide on the P is pain. What are the potential losses? Who is going to suffer the most? Which company is going to bleed the most? All those difficult decisions. The G is for gain. What is the potential gains in this? How can we pivot this? How can we pivot the family? How can we teach our children? How can we find food? How can we find security? How can we come up with brilliant new ideas in a time like this? E is for experience. The question is always, during a crisis, do I have enough experience to lead? And then the second question is, how do I use my experience from previous crises to lead perfectly now, or in such a way that people will follow me? Intuition. Intuition is when to take the decision. That important decision, when to take that. It's birthed out of experience leading in difficult times. You have to earn your scars to be able to know when to lead and how to lead in difficult times. Why you are making the decision is as important as the decision itself. Simon Sinek wrote the whole book on the why. So understand why you're making a decision. Do not make stupid decisions. Do not make decisions in the heat of the moment, but understand the why you're making a decision is as important as the decision itself. Now, Roy Disney, the brother of Walt Disney, he said that when you know what your values are, it is easy to make a decision. Come back to the previous point. Understand your values, define your values, know what your values are before you can make decisions. If your value is to value people, it's easier to make a decision about how you're going to treat them. If that's not one of your values, you will treat them totally different. Understand your values in a time like this. Leaders are people of value, who value people and add value to them. Let me say that again. Leaders are people of value, who value people and add value to them. That is probably the most important thing to remember, especially in a time like this. How are we adding value to other people? The crisis exaggerate the negative, but good leaders deal with the negative before it begins and as quickly as possible. Get rid of those negative thoughts, because you will always have the naysayers. You will always have your conspiracy theorists. You will always have the bad things that's going to happen in people's minds long before it actually happens. You have to get rid of those. Great leaders think things through on the front end. Now remember this, no sailor has ever distinguished himself on a calm sea. Just like a boat is at its safest in the harbor, but that's not what it was built for. So let's look at a few points to remember. A crisis never leaves us the same. This crisis will not leave us the same. We will change. The world will forever be changed in a different way. We'll do different business differently. Our kids will go to school differently. We'll do exercise differently. We'll interact with people differently. Everything will be different. We yearn for normal, but we have to redefine normal. What is normal? Normal of 50 years ago, normal today is not the same, and normal of tomorrow will definitely not be the same. The job market will never be the same again. Think about it. 10 years ago, a social media manager didn't exist. Nobody knew about it. Nobody thought about it. And exactly the same is the jobs that we left behind at the beginning of this crisis will never be the same. It will change forever. The way that we look at the world will change forever. Again, Max Dupree said that the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. We spoke about it before. The second is to help people with positive change. How do we change for the positive, not for the negative? It's easy to change for the negative. How do we change for the positive? The decision to make in this time, decisions are important. And I want to close with this. You can decide to sit on your couch and watch Netflix or look at social media in this time that you're at home in lockdown. Or you can decide that you're going to grow personally. You're going to read. You're going to do an online course because it's easy to do an online course. You're going to work on your personal growth. The only guarantee that tomorrow will be better is if we grow today. What are you learning? What are you getting better at for tomorrow? We have to reflect on what we can learn and what we should learn from this crisis. The world should reflect on that because there's lessons that we must learn. And the universe has got this thing that a lesson is given until it's learned. Otherwise, a lesson is given over and over and over again. The question is, what must we as individuals, as leaders, learn from this crisis? How can we create a new and better world tomorrow? How can we enhance our talents? How can we grow our talents? How can we discover new talents that we've got that we can make this a better world tomorrow? How will I be different after this crisis? How will I be able to add more value to myself, to people around me, to the world after this crisis? It's a very important point to think about. And how will I treat my life differently after this crisis? How will I look differently at what I've got? Not what I want, but what I've got. And how can I be happy with that? How can I change that, the way that I appreciate things, appreciate people around me? How do I treat them? How do I make them happy? How do I bring joy to other people's lives? And a very important point in my life that I've always tried to live according to is a question that some tribe of Indians say you are asked when you go into the afterlife. And it's two questions. The one is difficult, and the other one is extremely difficult. The first one is, did other people find joy in your life? And the second one is, did you find joy in your own life? Two questions to think about. Thank you for joining us for this. Contemplate what was said. Go and live it. Be a leader. And let's make a difference after this crisis and during this crisis. Be safe, be blessed, live big, and live strong.